Hey y'all, Big Tim here. Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Old School and Bass with Big Tim. Today we're going to do something you've heard me talking a lot about. I change the trebles on almost every one of my crankbaits. So today we're going to show you how I do that. One thing I definitely recommend when you're changing hooks on crankbaits, you might want to make sure that you're doing it on a hard floor. You don't want to do it with carpet because if you drop one, man, who knows what's liable to happen. You also want to make sure that you don't have pets or small children running around that can jostle the treble hook and get in the floor and they might step on it. So you want to make sure that you're in a free and clear environment with, hard surface. So if you do drop one, you can find it real easy because, you will drop them occasionally. It happens. And I don't care who you are, Kevin Van Dam, whoever, this happens. You're going to drop some trebles on the floor, and you just don't want little kids or your pets to end up with them in their foot. So make sure to take care of that. And also, like I said, I've got the towel set out here so that we don't scratch the table, because not only do I not want trebles getting in somebody's foot, I also don't want to get my butt kicked by my wife for scratching our table. So keep that in mind too. First thing you want to do is have all the tools ready. For us old guys, we need a good pair of cheaters. I leave the sticker on these because I've got a couple different pair. These are 2.5s. I've also got a pair that's a 1.5. For hooks, I want to be able to look real close. I've got a good set of pliers, a good set of hemos. I don't need these very often, and I don't have it here with me, but I also have a pair of split ring pliers. I don't recommend using them, but we're going to get to where I do use them, and it's very, very rare. Next, I have my trusty box of trebles. You'll see there's all different kinds. I believe in the Daiichi bleeding baits. Those are here, different sizes. I also like the KVD, short shank, extra strong. I've got those black and I've got those red. A few feathered trebles for certain things. And that is the trusty treble box. That stays in my boat, travels with me everywhere I go. If I think I've got a problem with a crankbait and it's a hook, I want to be ready to change it. In the middle of a tournament, I can change these hooks pretty quickly. All right, so here we go. First thing we're going to do, I have a Sexy Chrome Red Eye Shad, one of my favorite baits. And just pulled it out of the package. And we're going to change the hooks on this. Now, a lot of times you don't have to change the hooks on these. A lot of guys can use them and love them and catch a bunch of fish with stock hooks. But as you know, I'm a big believer in the red treble. Now, I'm going to set this one up. One thing I'm going to let you in on a little clue on. I love a red hook on the front of the bait. This is the KVD extra wide gap 2X strong. But I have found, I actually learned this at one of the seminars I went to. John Cruz talked about it, and I found it to be true in my own fishing. Anytime you're dealing with cooler water, something under, say, 60 degrees, the fish have a tendency to kind of slap at the bait, and this KVD EWG sometimes will not hook them up well, whereas a round bend is a better choice. So I set up a lot of baits with EWGs in the front, and I set up a lot of baits with a standard round bend. These are my Daiichi round bend hooks, bleeding bait. So the first thing that I do, and I'm hoping, I've got 3 GoPros here, I'm hoping we can get this. What I like to do is I like to get it started by putting the existing hook just to the left. And you don't have to do it, this way, but very, very close. I like to put the existing hook just to the left of the opening. And then I hold one end of the split ring with my pliers. So then what happens is I'm holding one end with my pliers, and I can twist this hook open that split ring. Okay, hopefully that GoPro is showing that. You can see how I'm going to bring it over here. It's hard to see it on this, but I have just barely opened up that split ring. Now the next thing I like to do is I want to match up exactly the way the hook is coming off. Now, if you can really look at the hook here, you can see that right here is where the third hook is welded on, just like here. So when I put this on, I want to match that. I want to mimic it. And we bring it in and do just like this. And then all I'm doing is I'm holding the red hook and pushing the old one off simultaneously and twisting with my pliers. You got to have a really good set of needle nose to do this. But I was a little slow that time because trying to show y'all how I do it. Look at there. We just took this one off and put this one on simultaneously that quickly. Okay? Pretty quick, pretty simple. Now I'll do the same thing with the rear hook. Now for that one, I will not put a red hook on the back. So I generally like using a short shank, but it really doesn't matter on these. So in this case, I'm actually not going to put a short shank. I've got a Kamakatsu round bend 2X strong hook. These are phenomenal hooks. And everything that's really cool about them, they have a little bevel at the very tip of them right there, and it makes it easier to do what we're doing here. So I'm going to show you again. I get the hook positioned where it's just barely to the left. Okay, we're going to try to do this one a little quicker. Hold the ring, twist the hook up, try to do the match up. Now granted, I've been doing this a lot of years, so it may take you a little practice to get as quick as I am. Now I'll tell you, these split rings on these red-eye sheds are pretty tough. They're pretty high, pretty thick. So they're a little tougher than most of your crankbaits. But there you go. We just took those hooks off of one bait in just a couple minutes. Now this one's ready to go. It goes in the box. So what I generally do this every year, normally about January and February. You know, when it's cold outside, it's a great time to think about fishing. It's a great way to keep your mind in the game. And, you know, what else is there to do? There's no football on TV today. So we go through our boxes and check all of our hooks on every crankbait. Any hook that's bent, get it out of there. For me, with treble hooks, whenever they bend, if they bend once, I think they're going to bend real easy again. So I get rid of them. If they're rusted, anything like that, if they're not sharp, the best way that I determine how sharp a hook is, I take it in my hands and I grip the fingers on it like this. And I want it to, you know, really get my hand. This one is the stock hook that we just took off of the red-eye shed. And it's okay, but like when I compare it to one of the new ones I just put on, I can't get my fingers through without catching them. Super, super, super sharp. That one's one we set up for cold water. We'll go ahead and set this one up for warm water. Pull it out of the package. These needle nose always work for poking the package open too. Same color, red-eye shad. This time, we're going to use the extra wide gap hook and a KVD short shank black in the back. Now I could go up a size on there. These hooks right here are number 4s. And I could go up to number 2s. That's what KVD does a lot with these red-eye shads. Show you the difference. All right. Here's a number 4. And here's a number 2. Now I could do this, but if you're fishing around any kind of cover, the larger hook does tend to get it hung up a little bit more. Yes, you definitely get a better hookup. Now if I'm fishing around, riprap or rock or something like that, I'll absolutely go with a bigger hook and have a better hookup ratio. But sometimes you just need to get into tight places, and the smaller hooks won't hang up near as much. So for this one, we're going to do the smaller hooks. That's something I can do on the water. I'll swap that sucker out 3 to 5 minutes and you're good to go. Put the glasses down so we can see. This red eye actually is either bent or painted. Yeah, that's it. It has paint in the hook hanger. So I had to free that up a little bit. Get her started, get that out of the way, because that was definitely in the way. By the way, I'm really hoping this transpires out on video. This one's a tougher one to do because of that paint. Yeah, like I said, I've got 2 GoPros and my cell phone here, and I'm hoping that you guys are able to see this close up. Boom, there's one. That dude right there is really going to need some work. We'll worry about him later. Let's get the hooks changed. Get started. Talking about how the EWGs are better when the water's warmer. Also in the fall when the fish are shallow, the round bends seem to keep the fish buttoned up a little better. I was fishing, I believe it was the BFL wild card. We all called it the losers tournament. And I was really struggling. And I started throwing my favorite red eye shad, and I jumped a bunch of fish off because I had EWGs. So I ended up switching to the round bends, and sure enough, the fish stayed hooked up better, even though they would jump, you know, because I was catching these fish in 2 feet of water. And you catch fish shallow like I do on a crankbait, they're going to come up. So when they come up with a red eye, they can have a lot of weight and a lot of leverage, and they can throw this bait real easily. So when I changed over to the round bend hooks, as opposed to losing probably half the bites I got, I was only losing maybe 2 out of 10. So it was pretty good. Still didn't do well in the tournament, but at least I weighed some fish. But that's how quickly we can get this done. So now we've got the cold weather with round bend and warmer weather with the EWG. Now, you guys know I fish Cumberland a lot, and this bait right here. This is one of my favorites. This is a Spro RK Crawler. This is Red Bug. Great color, great bait. And it comes stock with Kamagatsu's, I think they're number 5s or something like that. And they are great hooks. You really don't have to change them. They're as sharp can be, because you can't even get the bait out of the package without pliers. Funny thing is, I have to do this to most of them. The hooks end up catching in the packaging. Now, with this bait, you generally don't even need to change the hooks. But I know it's a red bait, and I've been fishing it without changing the hooks, but I've just got a feeling. I had an issue. You saw the video where I caught 2 fish on 1 cast. And if I changed the hooks, maybe that bigger fish would have been up front. And I'll tell you why I changed the hooks and why I put the red hook up front. I was fishing at Cumberland one time, and I had a situation where I pulled out a little square bill. It was actually one of the Zoom Wex, and I love that bait. And the first cast on it, I caught a fish. The first fish would have been 14 3/4, because, you know, it has to be a 15-inch limit. But he just barely had the tail hook on that Zoom Weck. And I thought about it a second, and I know how quick I am changing these trebles. So I decided to put a red treble on the front of him. And as soon as I did that, I caught 7 fish in 7 casts. And every one of them had this crankbait sideways in their mouth. They had front and back hooks inside their mouth. That made me a believer. I really believe in red hooks, especially for shallower running baits. And when I say shallow, anything under 12 or 15 feet. After that, I don't know that they see it anyway. You know, the theory is that once the deeper that you go, you don't see red as far as, you know, like hook color or line or anything like that. So if you're fishing deeper than 15 feet, red hook won't make a difference. But in shallow water, I believe it is a target for them to hit the bait. And you want them to hit the front, and that way the back will get them. Now, it's a lot easier with this bait because their hardware isn't as thick. KVD requested that those red-eye shads have beefier hardware for bigger fish. And that's a nice thing, you know, that's kind of a comforting thing to have. You don't have to worry about a split ring going bad on you. But for the most part, most of us don't catch those giants that those guys are fishing for. You can really see the gap in the split ring right there. So that's where I want to hold the split ring. That's where I want to put the hook. And you can see I just twist the hook and hold. And that opens up that split ring. Then we line this up. If you can see, the extra wire that's welded on is facing the same way. And then just slide it in and hold the new hook while spinning the split ring. And that'll pop the old hook right off. And there we go. That looks a lot better. That one will come through cover. And when I hold the bait like that, look how the hook just lays on the belly. Real nice. So, I put him back. That's a real good hook. I'll save him. That's a Gamakatsu. So I'll save that and keep that in my box. The other ones that I took off the KVDs, I saved these and put on older crankbaits that maybe I'll give to kids or something like that. I have a cup full of old trebles like that, obviously, because I replace them on just about everything. Like I said, this would be one bait that I would not replace my trebles on, other than the fact that I wanted to try that red one on the front. We'll see how that works. So as far as trebles go, we've talked about a couple of different kinds. You've heard me talk about the KVDs, Daiichis. Those are really good hooks. An Owner also makes some really good hooks. Owner has a cool hook. Now this one's huge. But look how that is the angle down here. I forget what they call that, a 110. This thing is really cool to lay on the bottom of a bait. I use this for really big crankbaits. Owners are really good hooks too. Now, as far as red hooks go, we already talked about that. I use Daiichi for the round bends and the KVD for the extra wide gaps. The reason being, the Daiichis seem to stay red longer, and they are the sharpest red hooks I've found. Gamakatsus turn brassy real quickly. I don't like them when they look brassy, and once the KVDs start looking brassy, which does take a little bit of time, once the KVDs start looking brassy, I'll get rid of those too. All right, so I told you we needed 3 different sets of tools. Most of the time I can get by with my old standard pliers. These things I love. I keep these in the house. I've also got another set in the boat that have a little bit bigger jaws in them. The ones in the boat, the reason they have bigger jaws is just in case I were to get a hook in me or something, they're a little bit more strong. They also have a better cutter on the side. These are the split ring pliers. I believe these are from Texas Tackle. They're about the best ones I ever found. I don't like using split ring pliers because I think they damage the split ring sometimes. I was having an issue where the split rings would kind of fold over, and I don't use these very often. It has to be a special circumstance, like we said, the 10XDs, 8XDs, all that heavy duty split ring hardware, kind of like musky stuff. I'm talking about the heavy duty hardware. Look at the hardware on this guy. This is a 10XD. This is also that 110 hook. I want you to look and see how that sits on that crankbait. Now, granted, we're talking about a giant crankbait. A traditional hook, can't see it. A traditional hook will be laying right on the side of the bait, whereas this is going to grab the fish from 3 possible angles. Hard to see. There we go. There's a good view of it. That's that 110 from Owner. Then I have these hemostats, which we didn't even use today other than opening a package. These I only use when we're dealing with tiny little baits that have small split rings. I keep these handy. These stay in the boat. These do not. And then like I said, I have another pair of pliers I keep in the boat. So hopefully that'll help you. Hopefully that showed you how to change your hooks quickly. And like I said, I've done this for years, so it may take you a little bit of practice to get to the point where you're getting them quicker than not. But let me tell you, if you're in a situation, if you're missing fish and it's because of your hooks, what do you want to do? Spend another 2 hours fishing and hopefully catching one, or spending 10 minutes to change the hooks on your bait right there in the water? That's why I keep these handy. I don't have to worry if I'm on the water. If I've got a bad hook, I'll get rid of it because I know it's costing me fish. Spending a little time to make a tool adjustment is a lot better than trying to make that tool work all day long and ruining your day. It's all about efficiency. So thanks for tuning in, and remember, if you haven't subscribed already, please do so. Give me a thumbs up. Give me some comments if there's something you want to see. We'll try to get to it. So anyway, thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next time, and have a good